This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic fans. And on today's episode, we want to give a big shout out to our Goodreads group because we are doing a Goodreads Theme of the Month episode. But today I'm joined by two individuals who may or may not enjoy a black and white cookie. Paloma.
Hello.
And Paul.
Hey, Danny. How you doing?
How are you guys? We'll get into cookies closer to the end of the episode.
Perfect.
So the theme for this month is very interesting. So if you're not on our Goodreads, go check it out, and you can see the full list of everything that the group's been recommending and reading this month. But it is black and white comics, not manga. So that's the real big caveat. When I saw the theme, I was like, black and white comics, easy peasy. But then I read the next part and I was like,
yeah, narrows it down quite a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all that, there are two legally mandated questions that I have to ask. So, Paloma, how are you and how have comic books been?
I've been pretty good, Danny. You know, it's a beautiful day. Went into nature earlier after I read my comic for the episode. Saw what I think was a heron just walking around a pond. I have I bought some binoculars, so I've been seeing things up close.
Oh. Did it sound like Robert Pattinson?
You know, I was a little too shy. I didn't get to talking, but I would like to think so.
Okay. If the heron says "I am vengeance," like, you have to follow it.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, my little journey outside was preceded with reading this cool, from 2025, graphic novel called Tsunami by Ned Wenlock. And it's from Pow Pow Press. Have either of you read a graphic novel from Pow Pow Press?
That does not sound familiar to me, no.
Yeah, I feel like they're relatively new in the past few years. Or I've been seeing them come through the shop. And maybe last year or 2 years ago, a book published by them was maybe nominated for an Eisner. So cool to see. They might be Canadian, just looking at the copyright info page. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I picked this up after kind of like struggling to find a black and white comic, which I feel like almost sounds so easy, but you also need to pick the mood. I don't know if you guys found this or if it's going to be in your readings, but I was like, a lot of black and white comics are kind of really depressing and pensive.
Yeah.
Which is cool. There's a place for that, which is cool. But yeah, I knew it was going to be today when I was reading it was going to be sunny, and I didn't want something maybe that sad. But this was a coming of age tale, so still has those moments. And this takes place in New Zealand, small town New Zealand. We follow Peter, who's a 12-year-old boy, outcast, has bullies. He's calling out the bullies ever so awkwardly in class. His main bully is named Gus. And tensions are rising. And then tensions really explode when a new girl from the UK named Charlie comes and maybe makes Peter want to change. For better or for worse, there's maybe threats of putting kids in boxes and shipping them away. These are all kids interacting with each other. But it was... And then the art is very like simple shapes, like simple character designs. But I'm like, this is kind of intense psychological warfare happening between boys. Yeah, the ending was interesting. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who decides to read this, but it was a interesting tale, maybe like a brutal tale where it's like this kid is being bullied, he's pushed to the brink, but the bully also has a messed up home life and has a self-awareness. So I'm like, you're giving this 12-year-old too many layers. I can't just be like, screw you, bully.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want a villain to be a villain, even if it's a 12-year-old little villain.
Exactly.
That sounds really interesting. And I hadn't heard of Pow Pow Press, but I mean, Paloma, you working at a shop, you get to see all kinds of things coming in. Especially, what is it like when a book like that comes into the shop where you're like, I've never even heard of this. I mean, I don't even know if you're involved in the ordering, but like that must be really interesting.
Yeah, it's cool to see, especially when you're like, oh, this looks neat. Like they're all of them have these little like the book flaps. So
Yeah.
great print quality.
Oh, yeah.
And so you pick it up thinking that it's going to be like Fantagraphics or drawn in quarterly, and then you see something totally new. So I feel like it adds like, not that I think the publishing is bleak, but it just adds like more hopefulness in it to what's currently going on. Where like I imagine it's very hard to get into get published through Fantagraphics or drawn in quarterly. So I think this adds like more breathing room, something inviting that's putting out good books, but maybe with like less prestige, or maybe like that era of like I don't think I'm not like picking on Fantagraphics, but I feel like they also publish what we would call like comic hipster material. Like I like a lot of their stuff, but there's
fair.
also that maybe more like that's too highbrow kind of vibe from these more established indie publishers. So
Sure.
yeah, I'm gonna check out more of their works. They had more works that were also in black and white, so I was like, this will be for next time, or anyone else who needs a book for this month's theme.
So I'm actually curious. Do you think that the black and white art fit the story? Was it an appropriate aesthetic choice?
Yeah, because there's also the it does use grayscale, but I think it adds to a lot of depth, and I think it makes like the heavier subject matter, especially with kids, more powerful, or you can like focus on it in a different way, or maybe think about it differently. Because like everybody basically has like this same like dot eyes and mouth. Our main character happens to have like a mole, but it's just like almost like a tick of the pen. But yeah, I do feel like the lack of colors kind of like adds to the bleakness, or just like the melancholy of this book, where like the two main characters are at.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, because like sometimes color can trigger emotions. I think people have strong reactions to color. Like if you don't have that, it kind of like necessitates the artwork to do more of that, emotional heavy lifting, rather than relying on the color to fill that in, right?
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I would think, especially if it's more for a younger audience, like you can get distracted sometimes by the color. I'm speaking from experience where I see like, oh look, shiny, and then I like, oh yeah, I forgot there's a whole narrative storyline that I'm going through here. So that's very cool. Very interesting book, Paloma.
Yeah.
Thank you. Paul, what about you? How have you been? How are comic books?
I've been great. I've been kind of busy. I'm going to be moving soon. We're recording this at the end of June, so I'll be moving in a couple weeks. And like, it's exciting to moving in with my girlfriend. But I look at my, like the 9 long boxes of comics that I have, the 750 plus records I have, all my CDs, like, oh, this is going to take a while. So I've been slowly going through that. It also gives me a nice opportunity to kind of maybe go through my collection and purge some stuff. So I've been going through my comics, pulling out stuff I can take back to my shop. My very generous local shop here does give me store credit if I sell books to them. So that's a nice little bonus for shrinking my collection for the necessity of moving, but also get a little extra pocket cash for when I go buy comics. So
to replenish that collection.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been reading stuff, and like Paloma said, like it was kind of tough for me to find a book, which is odd because I read a lot of black and white comics. I talk about Love and Rockets on the show all the time. So like, I didn't want to just rely on an old faithful, something I've talked about before, I've read before. So I went and picked up this book called The Wrestler from Fantagraphics. It's by John Ken Mortensen. This came out last year. Mortensen is a Danish illustrator. He did books like The Nightmare Factory, The Christmas Bestiary. But this is his first English language OGN that he published last year from Fantagraphics. So The main character is named the Sledgehammer. He's a freestyle wrestler who had a 25-year undefeated career in the ring, but now he's retired, lonely, and alcoholic. And actually, the story opens up with him on a boat, like just a wooden boat that's drifting across a vast ocean, piloted by a lone, shrouded figure. And Sledgehammer has no memory of who he is or how he got there. And as the story goes on, he slowly begins remembering his victories in the ring, but also a deal he made with a shadowy figure in a suit. So the story jumps between the present day of him in this mysterious place, which it's obviously hell, and his memories of this sort of Faustian deal he made to be an undefeated wrestler. So he traded in something very valuable for a 25-year career in the ring. And the way the story unfolds, it's like you get to see that jumping back and forth between his memories and the final epic last match he has to have in this mysterious place he wakes up in. So it's a mix of like the story of Faust, someone making a deal with the devil that has negative consequences. It's a mix of Greek mythology, because obviously the person piloting the boat they're on the river Styx, and professional wrestling. It's freestyle wrestling. It's a lot more brutal. They actually do battle to the death, but the way it's drawn and the way it's illustrated, it is pro wrestling. And there's a lot of little fun Easter eggs, references for the wrestling nerds out there, so you appreciate that. And the artwork is, I will say up front, the artwork can be pretty gruesome. Like, there's a lot of viscera involved, so maybe not for the squeamish. But it's also kind of exaggerated and humorous in a way. It's so over the top. It reminds me of some of the illustrations that, Tim Burton does for character designs, or if you've seen any artwork for Edward Gorey, like his artwork, it's that very like gothic, lots of lines, lots of detailed line work. And it's very intricate. And it's also, like I said, a little exaggerated while being realistic. And like the pages where it's the wrestling match itself, and you see the way the audience, quote unquote, is like watching it, it looks like it'd be the cover of a death metal album. Like it's dark, it's brutal, it's a little over the top and kind of corny, but it's very fun at the same time, despite how kind of graphic it is. And like, I think it fits the story really well. Like the story is a sort of meditation on the passion you have to have to be an athlete or an artist, like a professional wrestler, and a deep emotional story, like what you have to sacrifice to get ahead, and is it worth that sacrifice? And there is a final image in the book that I won't spoil, because I think it's worth reading. It's this dark gallows humor with this nice emotional payoff. It's an incredibly remarkable, very memorable final panel where you kind of realize what he was sacrificing and who he's trying to protect by making this deal. So I know I'm being very vague. It's a very short story. It's only like 80 pages, but I gave you the gist of it. I think if you are a fan of pro wrestling, you'll like it. If you like sort of dark artwork or dark humor, you'll really appreciate it. If you're a heavy metal fan, like I said, it's very like death metal looking. And in fact, like the last couple pages, Mortensen does like the thank yous, and he writes everyone's name in like a different like death metal like logo style. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like all of his thanks are like, like little like logos like that. So yeah, it's a really cool book. I'm excited that Mortensen did like an OGN like this. I hope he does something else like this again soon, because I think his artwork is really remarkable for the detail, and it's very different from the black and white art I read in like Love and Rockets, where it's like very minimal detail. This is like the exact opposite. Lots of line work, lots of detail. Yeah, it was a fun read. Like I said, despite the nature of it, despite the subject matter, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Interestingly enough, Love and Rockets also has a little bit of wrestling. So Paul,
yeah, go figure.
Paul will read a book if it's in black and white and it has a little bit of wrestling in it.
Yeah, I'm a man of simple taste, Yeah.
I wonder, Paul, did you? So maybe a couple months ago now, we talked to Kyle Starks on the show about his wrestling comic. Did you have this already? Because we were planning to originally do just a wrestling comics episode that was not the Daniel Warren Johnson comic that everybody has read. Did you find this after, or did you have that already kind of like on mind?
I had picked this up when it came out. It's one of those books that I remember seeing in previews and thought, oh, I want to check that out. So I ended up just buying a copy, and I'd flipped through it. I sat down. I'd actually read it before. I sat down and reread it for this episode. But it was something that I think it's worth a reread. So I may have cheated a little bit. It's a book I'd read before, but it's definitely a fun book. It's one I did want to mention on the show because I think it's maybe didn't get a lot of attention. So once maybe more people can check it out now.
Well, I'm here. I'm glad we were all here for your heel turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's very cool. So for anybody that's listening, if you want to see a little preview of both Paloma and Paul's books, you can check out our Patreon where you can see the live feed. They both showed the books. I don't have mine, but I will tell you in a minute why. But before that, there's a lot going on right now in Dallas. We are one of the cities with World Cup stuff going on. Like we're hosting one of the stadiums here, Dallas Stadium, which they've renamed from the AT&T Cowboy Stadium. And so it's been very interesting. We also just had a really pretty big storm, I think. So like, I hope everybody that's visiting from all over the world, they now appreciate that when we tell them we have severe weather, it is severe.
Yes.
You're not kidding.
So I've been loving that aspect of it, of like people from other countries and places like experiencing Texas heat, restaurants, Walmart, the Waffle House. Like they're just loving it. They're just loving it. So that's been really, really fun. And in between all that, of course, a lot of comic books. And now I know people are probably saying like, oh, Danny probably went with a basic pick like The Walking Dead. And you would be partly right.
Close.
I read a book that's in the world of The Walking Dead, but I actually read Clementine, book number 1.
Oh, yeah.
This is by Tilly Walden. It's a YA book from Image Skybound for their young adult imprint. And it is the first of 3 books. So it is a Walking Dead book, but it's not The Walking Dead, which is also a great black and white book. But I wanted to add a little bit of an extra layer to my reading, especially because I knew Paloma and Paul were going to be on the show with me. I was like, I can't let those guys show me up. I always bring cool books. Now, I think one of the things that really impressed me about this book is just how many different levels it works on, right? At its core, it's just like a little YA coming of age story, which I think a lot of black and white books use that coming of age story as a pretty usual format for that. So that's kind of fun to kind of see. Also, just it's a zombie survival story because it is in the world of The Walking Dead. And it also expands on the lore of like, outside of Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adelar's 193 issues, you can get more Walking Dead in the comics via Clementine. So I think that's pretty fun. We follow Clementine, who you probably might have met in those Tall Tale video games that are like decision-based video games. So it's that same character, but now we kind of continue her story. She meets Amos, who's an Amish teenager who's going on Rumspringa, which I guess is still going on after the apocalypse. And then together they travel to an abandoned ski resort in Vermont, where they get with another group of teenagers who they're trying to build a walker-free community, because of course on top of the mountain, the walkers can't get there. It's too cold, and you can only get there by the ski lift. So it kind of, I think it would make sense in the mind of a teenager. So I appreciate, like, the logic was sound. Maybe not the smartest idea to isolate yourself at the top of a mountain, but the logic was sound. And then Clementine's a really cool character. She's just very no nonsense. She keeps people at arm's length because if you play the games, like, that she's had a really tough background. But even if you don't, like, we get glimpses of that all throughout the book. I think Walden actually handles that very well. And then the art just really works. It's fantastic. The book is presented in black and white with the grayscale as well, which I feel like it would be really difficult to just do a black and white book with none of that. Like, I feel like the grayscale is like the coloring that you kind of need to keep this format and really get those punches in. Maybe we'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, you still get the gruesome zombies. You get characters that look like fun. It is a little YA more art, so it's different from Charlie Adler's art, which is a little bit more gory, I guess I could say. So this one doesn't kind of go that full way, but it still works in that same world. So I like that. I appreciate when a book can kind of spin off into its own thing, but it still feels grounded in the same place of an original work like The Walking Dead. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I borrowed this from my library, which is why I don't have the book to show you guys. But they have the other two books, so I think I'm just gonna kind of keep going and finish up this Clementine because I'm not playing the video games. So,
so I'm actually curious. Like I kind of dropped off The Walking Dead. I made about maybe 60, 70 issues in, so about halfway through. Is this something I could just pick up and read on its own? It's not really as tied to the main series? Okay.
I think the expectation is that a lot of people maybe know about The Walking Dead, but are not like, they don't expect anybody to get through all 193 issues, right? That feels like that's an elite group of people that just kind of stuck out with it. But yeah, it's very welcoming to a new audience, and like because it has a lot of those same tropes, kind of from a different point of view. I think it works, and it's all about the characters too. So that's what makes it, I think, more interesting, more than even the zombies of it all. So I don't. Paloma, have you read this book?
No, so I'm just not into. I'm not super into zombie stuff, so I haven't really read The Walking Dead, despite loving like Invincible. Very, very different, but Robert Kirkman, right?
Very different.
But I do love Tilly Walden as a storyteller and artist, so I think you finally sold me to at least check out the Clementine books, because I'm a huge fan of Tilly Walden's art, and I didn't rumspring in the context of a apocalypse. That's rather fascinating.
Yeah. The introducing an Amish community is a really smart thing because they're already pretty self-sufficient. So like, if the world, if the internet and the grid go down, like probably for the most part, they'd kind of be able to keep going, as long as they can ward off the zombie invasion or whatever. But yeah, it seems like they would be the most prepared. And that's not something that anything that I've seen, whether it's the TV or the movies or the comics, ever really explored. So it's really fun that Tilly Walden kind of went in that direction. This also takes place like in the northeastern part of the country, where The Walking Dead was like in the Georgia southern parts of the country. So it's kind of cool to see different, I guess, how different places adapted to it all. And then who doesn't love? I love a coming of age story. Like it just brings you back to your youth and good or bad decisions that you might have made throughout your life.
And like, as we said earlier, like sometimes the simplicity of the black and white art works for a coming of age story. It also is perfect for a zombie story. Like you can rewatch, again, even going back to the original Night of the Living Dead, the George Romero movie, it's in black and white. And it works so much better, in black and white. Just so stark, in the presentation like that. So imagine, again, I couldn't imagine The Walking Dead colored. It just would not be the same book.
Well, obviously you don't like money enough, Paul, because they are doing the deluxe edition where they're coloring.
I don't think that would work for me.
The book, so you could, Robert Kirkman's like, we can have it all, guys. We can have it all. Dave McKeague is doing the coloring on this, so it's pretty much they're up to. This is the latest issue, and for those, so they're already at 139 in the reprinting of the books, and they've been doing them monthly once again. So it's pretty crazy.
A book so nice you bought it twice, right?
Yeah, I'm not rebuying everything, but Liana Congas had a special cover. It's going to be like a connected cover, so I love their art. So that's why I wanted to pick it. Funny enough, I have it at my desk because it just came out this week, so it all worked out.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions about black and white comics. And well, let's see. I guess the first one is going to be, does the lack of color on a comic book impact when you're looking through, looking to pick up a book? Is that a factor that comes into your mind when you're trying to choose?
As I mentioned earlier, I read a lot of black and white comics just in general anyway. Like I read a lot of small press stuff, or like we said, like autobiographical or coming of age stories. Like those tend to be black and white. Sometimes that is a budget choice, and sometimes that's an aesthetic choice. Like, I mean, Love and Rockets obviously is a perfect example because it started off as a self-published comic. They're Hernandez brothers, didn't have money to get it colored, so they just, published it that way. Fantagraphics picked it up, and then they kind of just kept it that way. And I think that book, I mean, especially Jaime Hernandez's artwork, like I love it so much because it's so simple. And I think color would just, as I said earlier, like be distracting. Like his artwork is just so pure. That I think the black and white fits perfectly. So for me, like if the art itself is appealing as it is in black and white, that's what I'm there for. I'm not really color, black and white doesn't make a difference to me as long as the artwork is engaging visually and aesthetically for me.
Sure. Paloma, what about you?
I feel similarly where I read a lot of manga, so that's already published in black and white. So maybe it just depends on my mood or what I'm trying to get from like my reading experience when I'm picking up something. But yeah, I do like black and white a lot. I think it can come with like the simplicity of like Love and Rockets, like that's just absolutely gorgeous black and white art to me. Or like super detailed, not released yet, but this will be for kind of like coming back where I think Do a Power Bomb, Daniel Warren Johnson, is going to be releasing black and white editions. And with his art and inking, the details there, I'm like, that's going to look so crazy cool in black and white. I'm going to be loving it so much that I bought it twice.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Same. I mean, same. Yeah. I think that's what's interesting too, is like there's some artists whose work just kind of works better in black and white. I love the colors in Do a Powerbomb and like, but again, like his artwork is just so expressive. And like that to me is almost like when they do those artist editions that they do, like the big oversized books where it's like, here's the artwork as it was drawn and inked. We didn't do anything else. And like those almost feel like art books you just pour over versus like a narrative book you're reading for the story. And like, I think his artwork especially like is perfect for that, because I want to look at how he got every line on the page, because it's so like it's not as simplistic as Love and Rockets, but it feels just as intentional, if I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. And I would be curious to ask, an artist or maybe even just a writer artist combo team of like, well, like when do you decide that color is needed? Like, is that a part of how they approach the writing process or the art process? So I think a lot of the books, just by necessity of like being on the mainstream, like they kind of have to be color because that's kind of what people are expecting. But to me, that doesn't really matter. Like I think one good example is something I didn't remember about Ghost Cage until after I had already started Clementine. I was like 100 pages in, and I'm like, oh, I could have read Nick Dragotta's Ghost Cage, which like Nick Dragota, obviously right now all over the place with Absolute Batman. Like I love not only how many homages there are to his Absolute Batman cover, but just the fact that he now is homaging himself with the preview we got for Absolute Batman number 24. So that would have been cool to revisit, and I might still revisit after this because I want to see how he has evolved as an artist, but also would I want to read Absolute Batman in black and white instead of with all the colors and stuff, right? So
that aesthetic choice, I think it has to fit the narrative. And it's like, I think if you're doing a book like Absolute Batman, black and white would absolutely work as well. Because I mean, the colors are already pretty muted in that book, and the subject matter is pretty like intense. I think that's a book that would work perfectly in black and white as well.
Yeah. And like the other thing I wanted to ask you was when people do reprints of those classic stories, like Paloma just brought up Daniel Warren Johnson re-releasing Do a Powerbomb, but a lot of those absolute titles and newer titles, they get like they reprint issue number 1 to sell it again in black and white. They call it the Noir edition, right? Yeah. And I'm like, damn, you're making me buy the book again. How dare you?
But again, I think it would really depend on if it suits the art versus just a cash grab situation. Like I said, those artist editions are fascinating to me because they're not they're usually comics I've already read.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the artwork kind of as it is originally, like that's almost like it's like watching like the deleted scene or something from a movie. It's like it's not the story itself. It's just kind of watching the artist at work. And like I think to me that's different than just republishing a book in color, or republishing a book in black and white just to get someone to buy it again. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of comics I've read that were originally in color that are published in black and white just for budgetary reasons. Like the Marvel did it. Was it what they call it, the Essential edition? And then DC does the showcase. They used to do the showcase ones. I think they kind of stopped that. But for a while, when I was buying like those, they look like big phone books. Like it's a big stack of comics, and it's all published on newsprint. It's all black and white. The comics were originally in color, but it's way cheaper to publish them that way. And I read so much of that stuff, like the original Doom Patrol, old Batman comics, old Superman comics, and I kind of loved it because it made the artwork kind of shine. Like those old printing techniques kind of muddied the artwork. Just to see it in black and white was actually kind of nice.
Yeah, I also was thinking for this, I've completely forgot about the DC showcase ones. I think I only had Marvel Essentials, and it was like X-Men books because I was maybe a teenager, and I was like, let me like read about Teen Kitty Pryde, and I just thought those were so fun with the newsprint feel. It feels so good. Oh, I feel like talking like a couple days ago with a coworker, being like, those are just dead. I feel like that was like such nice accessibility, and like part of it I'm sure is for Marvel Unlimited, but something about the black and white, and like I'm pretty sure they're all like old stories, right? But it felt like a newspaper, even though they were never published in that format. It was almost like Shonen Jump in a weird way, these Essentials and Showcase editions. So I thought they were very fun.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting that the natural evolution of that just became those little compact comics that are flying all over the place now, where I guess it's easier and cheaper to print now as well. Like the technology's gotten so much better. But I do love going to like a half price books or something and seeing those giant phone book editions of like, here's like all the Fantastic Four you'll ever want to read, volume 1.
Yes.
I think if I had to choose, maybe I would do like that Wolverine Kitty Pryde story when they go to Japan. I think Frank Miller wrote that. I think that would look pretty well. I mean, Frank Miller's work usually looks pretty sick in black and white already anyways. You know? Take like Sin City and 300, like so like I think that would be a really fun one to just kind of go back and reread in that, because the book has so much color, because Japan has such a, I guess they wanted to illustrate kind of what the landscapes would look like, but removing that and just kind of leaving the Wolverine and Kitty of it all. And that was like, that's a pretty brutal story, I think, from what I remember. So like cool. I'm gonna start this next question with Paloma because I feel like she's the manga expert of the panel. Why do you think manga does black and white so seamlessly, other than because they publish their Shonen Jump in like tissue paper, so they can't really color it?
Right. It's tough to say because like I just have my Western mind, and so I separate the two, where it's like very, very base level, like Capes comics, that's just in color because that's the way it is, and manga's in black and white because that's just how they do it in Japan, would be like my thinking. But I feel like to all of our maybe like previous talks, it somehow the black and white suits every single story so well. I'm never reading a manga really and wishing it was in color. I think they're, and like with comics, are like naming every person that's part of like the big team to make like a comic for like Marvel or DC. And I know like manga have their own teams as well, but it's a lot of people focused on putting everything together, making everything work so well and seamlessly in the black and white format, so everyone can kind of hone their skills. We have like people that do backgrounds for the mangaka, maybe people that add like the half tones or whatever. So I feel like it's just such a well-oiled machine. And yes, part of it is the brain where I'm like, manga is black and white, but I I think it just gets the point across in a cool way, and I think it reminds us, or like people that are maybe like getting into reading like comics and graphic novels, that it doesn't necessarily need all these bells and whistles, or like black and white is just a very great way to like tell a story. It's like it's a statement. How cool of an outfit is that? We don't have the ska belts without the black and white checkers, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that aesthetic choice, I mean, it's interesting to me. I never really put that together, that every manga I've ever seen is in black and white. And I just, maybe that's just a budgetary reason, because I'm sure, manga, they publish way more of it. It was way more mass marketed than newsstand comics in the US. And maybe it became an aesthetic choice after a budgetary one. It's just like, all right, this is what people want, and just like, I think about that. Certain artists' work tends to look better in black and white to me. Like, I never did read the colorized version of Scott Pilgrim, because in my mind, like the original black and white version, like that's just how his art, Brian Lee O'Malley's artwork looks. Same thing with David Lapham for Stray Bullets. Like, I think, as again, a small press book initially, and it's published in black and white, maybe as a budgetary reason, but his artwork, sometimes he does work for the big two and it's colored. I'm just like, it's not bad. It's like, it just looks off. I want the simplicity of black and white. I think maybe you have the generations of mangaka have just like picked up that aesthetic choice and just gone with it. So that's just the way comics look there,
Yeah. And I think also one thing I appreciate about the black and white of it all is that for manga, I think they put a lot of it on the audience of like, we're not going to show you everything in color. Here's like a special first page of our book. Just so you can get here's the vibe of the world, and then we'll let your mind color in the rest if you needed to, right? Like, you need to know that Naruto has an orange jumpsuit, right? Like, so we're going to show you that because he's a ninja, but that doesn't make sense aesthetically. But so like, it's like, you're a smart audience. You can figure it out and then interpret this however you want. So they give you that option. I also feel like a lot of people that were doing comics with an X in the 90s had to do black and white for budgetary reasons, because they didn't have a colorist, but also because it was kind of like their grunge, like, Rage Against the Machine type of vibe that they were trying to get across in those works. So it definitely it's interesting that taking away something from a traditional comic book, if you want to call it that, adds so many layers that we've had a full-on conversation about everything, right? So I don't know, like, comics are just great. So like, I love that we can still find little things like this to talk about, and I love that the Goodreads community were like, let's go outside the box a little bit and try to find interesting, weird things to explore. So that was really fun.
I mean, Danny, I just want to follow up on a point you made. Sure. Like, it's really interesting. You talked about like it being a limitation to just use black and white. I think we've talked about it as like a budgetary thing, an aesthetic thing, but like sometimes just an artist or someone who's creative, like putting a limitation on yourself can be open up creativity. So you have to it's like a problem you have to work around. And I think it's really interesting to see artists like Daniel Klaus or Charles Burns, who started out as small indie creators. Their earlier books are all in black and white, and then they have slowly introduced color into their work. Like Daniel Klaus, he does everything. So it's like he draws it, inks it, colors it, letters it. So it's like his decision to use color became like, oh, I have the money to do it now, and now I know what to do. It's like, I think his work looks amazing both in black and white and color, but I don't think I'd want him to recolor his old work, because that's rooted in that choice to do it that way. And like his newer stuff, I think is absolutely beautiful because of the way he uses color. So like having artists that can do both is I think pretty amazing like that.
Yeah, and I think even the big two have caught on to this, because they keep releasing those black, white, and something.
Yes,
black, white, and red, or blood, or whatever, like the little anthologies. But within those limitations, the creative teams find really fun ways to with the alien stuff, like, well, their blood is technically green, so we can add another color to to our stuff. So just the loopholes that they kind of create, but it makes for good storytelling and good comics.
I love every version of the Batman Black and White. DC's done multiple different volumes of that, and like, again, it's the perfect marriage of like interesting artists. They get great artists to do it who want to experiment, and you have the perfect character for noir stories. Like Batman always looks cool in color or black and white. Doesn't matter. It's the perfect character for that. So those are some of my favorite like versions of that. What we're talking about, you know.
Yeah, those are so cool because. First of all, I'm glad we're kind of closing this out with a Batman book. I feel like we've now met our required obligations. And yeah, like Batman just feels like a character that should be in black and white. Like the less you see of, interestingly enough, the less you see of Batman in a book, sometimes the better the story like gets, right? So yeah, I mean the shadow work that a lot of these artists do, and the black and white, like I feel like those are kind of the predecessor to all these other ones being like, well, maybe we can have Wolverine in black and white too, or like, you know, all these other characters in Star Wars and the Aliens. So big shout out to homie Batman for being a real one since day one.
Truly.
Well, I mean, so if we're going to talk about Batman, I might as well just jump in and add my topic about Judge Dredd I wanted to mention too. Is like, I mean, a lot of Dredd originally, like they would have like maybe this initial splash page would be in color and then like the rest be in black and white. When they did the complete case files, they published it all in black and white, like we were talking about like the showcase and essential collection. So I read a lot of the early Dredd stuff in black and white. And again, it's a character that I love the newer Dredd stuff that's colorized, but something about that simple black and white, because that's the way Dredd sees the world, in black and white. There's no ambiguity for Dredd, so it actually works perfectly.
That's the clip. That's the clip right there. Oh man, Paul. I love it. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Because I mean that's a great place to end. But if you guys have any final thoughts, I don't want to leave them out. We've had such a fun conversation with this black and white topic. Well, if not, I want to thank everyone that's listening. First of all, thank you to our Goodreads community for doing these themed episodes, or I guess for giving us ideas for these themed episodes. They're a lot of fun to do. I want to thank Paul and Paloma for joining me to talk about comics today. I want to thank Nick, who's proof listening. I want to thank Zander, who's going to edit the heck out of this episode, because believe it or not, I messed up multiple times trying to get this one going. And of course, thanks to Mike for allowing me to host. So until next time, comics are good, and so are you.